All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to explore this really powerful metaphor for how we engage with the world around us, the idea of a sword. It's a tool every single one of us uses to make judgments, but here's the catch. Most of us have no idea that it has a fundamental built-in flaw.
So let's start with this big question, just to get our heads in the right space. What if every single judgment you make, big or small, was the swing of a sword? How sharp is your blade, really? And what are you even cutting with? Is it truth or is it just assumption?
Okay, so let's really dive into this. First things first, we need to define what this sword even is. Because believe it or not, you're carrying one right now, whether you're aware of it or not.
So, simply put, this sword, it's your ability to judge, to decide, to interact with reality. It's the mental tool you use every single day to carve a path forward, to make distinctions, and really to separate what's real from what isn't.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. The crucial thing to understand is that this tool, it has a major design flaw. It's not one solid piece of steel. Nope, it's actually split right down the middle.
And here it is, the core concept. Your sword is bifurcated. I know, it's a big word, but the idea is actually super simple. Just imagine a blade that's been forged from two totally different metals fused together. One side is pure, hard, tested truth. And the other side? That's made of all your assumptions, your hopes, your expectations.
And this slide just breaks that difference down perfectly. On one side, you've got the edge of truth. Think of it as being forged from igneous stones. Hard, dense, tested observations that totally align with reality. It's infinitely sharp. It cuts with zero friction. But on the other side, you have the edge of expectation. This one's made of fired bricks. It's brittle. It's basically weaponized assumption. It creates a ton of friction, and you know what? It just gets duller and duller every time it smacks against the hard surface of what's real.
So let's get into the mechanics of this thing. Let's see how that one flaw affects every single swing you take. The physics are surprisingly simple, but trust me, the consequences are huge. Here is the one critical rule you have to remember. Whichever edge is longer is the one that makes first contact. It's just that simple. So if your assumptions about a person or a situation extend out further than your actual, tested understanding of it, well, that dull edge is going to hit first, every time.
So what happens then? Well, that dull edge, it doesn't slice cleanly. It just bludgeons the target. And all of that force? It has nowhere to go but right back up the blade and into your hand. It recoils on you. This is where that feeling of self-inflicted disappointment comes from. It's that chronic strain you feel when you're trying to force reality to bend to your assumptions.
Okay, so now that we get the physics, let's look at how this flawed sword actually shows up in our interactions with other people. Because that dull edge isn't just ineffective for you, it can absolutely be weaponized.
The source material we're looking at describes how this dull blade can be used as something called an indirect trap. So instead of swinging it yourself, you hand it to someone else. You give them an impossible expectation, a standard that you know doesn't actually align with reality.
And this quote just nails that strategy perfectly, doesn't it? You literally manufacture an impossible burden for someone else, and when they inevitably fail to lift it, that failure becomes all the justification you need to judge them or control them. It's a setup.
But there's a flip side, a much more advanced technique the source calls the reverse trap. Now, in this case, you intentionally offer a flawed premise to someone else, but your goal isn't to make them fail. Your goal is to reveal their true intent.
This is such a fascinating example of that idea in action. The source frames this story as Jesus presenting a scenario, healing someone on the Sabbath. The Pharisees, totally driven by their rigid, untested assumptions, they immediately swing their dull blade. They don't stop to check the facts or question their premise, and their instant, hostile reaction exposes their true intent. The blade just shatters against the truth of the situation.
So this all leads to the most crucial question, right? If this bifurcated sword is so flawed, so easy to shatter, what do we do about it? How do we fix it? How do we forge a true tool of absolute precision?
The goal is to achieve what's called a zero gap. It's about hammering those two halves of the blade together again and again until the gap between what you expect and what you know to be true completely disappears. When your expectation is perfectly calibrated to tested reality, the sword finally becomes whole. Now, just take a moment and look at the supporting data on this slide, because this is pretty amazing. The source highlights how 6 major world traditions originally defined their highest form of service, and in every single case, the root word refers to external, verifiable action. It's all about doing, labor, work, service giving, not some internal subjective feeling. It's about producing a real-world effect.
And that brings us right back to our sword, prioritizing observable action, what is actually being done, over internal feelings or assumptions. Well, that is the very process of forging that true sword. You are strengthening the edge of truth and shrinking that edge of expectation until they become one and the same.
The source material really culminates with this quote, which describes the ultimate true sword, a blade with no bifurcation, no gap whatsoever. It's so sharp it can separate the subjective soul, our feelings and assumptions, from the objective spirit. It's a tool of perfect, utterly frictionless discernment.
And so that leaves us with one final question for you to take with you. Every single day, you pick up this sword, in your work, in your relationships, inside your own mind. The question is, which edge are you leading with? The sharp-tested edge of truth, or that dull, brittle edge of expectation?